Hello, my name is Miguel Corzo. I'm a Veteran Employment Coordinator with Nevada Work for Warriors, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to write a federal resume. So before we get started, just wanted to let you guys know that this video will not be discussing how to search for federal jobs or the different job classifications and the different KSAs under each classification. But an important point is before we get started, you must have a specific job posting you would like to apply to. In order to be successful in applying for a federal position, you must create a targeted resume that addresses the specific knowledge, skills, and abilities known as KSAs for each job classification you're applying for. For more information on how to be able to search for federal jobs, you could go to our YouTube channel and look up our video titled How to Search for a Federal Job. Next thing I wanted to address is that the federal government does not have an applicant tracking system, meaning they don't scan your resume and this whole idea that they're going to pull that if your resume has specific keywords, that's how it's going to go through. What they do have, though, is that every single resume is read by a specific individual who is trained to ensure if you're fully qualified or not. So it is important that your resume has all the pertinent information and that everything correlates to your supporting documents that you're going to be submitting. The best way to do this is by utilizing the outline federal resume format. We're going to be discussing this format today, and it was created by Catherine Troutman. We've been using it for many years and have seen great successes. So, first step, we're going to have to create your resume shell. To the left, there's an example of a federal resume. This is just one job posting. This is what your end product will look like or come close to looking like. Notice how there's administrative human resources and support, oral and written communication, all in caps. Those are your KSAs. You're going to be discussing your KSAs in paragraph format, and you're going to be outlining each individual KSA, which is the reason why it's called an outline format. To get started with this, we're going to put all of our admin information first. We're going to go with our header. You're going to put your full legal name. This is the name that you have on your legal documents. You're going to put your full address and your phone number. A couple notes about the phone number. Make sure that you're able to accept new voicemails, meaning that you delete old voicemails and you have the capability of getting new voicemails when the employer reaches out to you. That you have your voicemail set up in the first place. That you have a professional answering machine and no ringback tones. Next is going to be your email address. Your email address needs to be one that you check frequently, that you're able to check the spam inbox for, and also make sure that this email address is a professional email address. We usually tell our clients first out last name or something along those lines, a combination first initial last name, however you deem acceptable, but try to make it professional. Next, we're going to be announcing which position we're going to be applying for. This information is on the job posting. Now, we're going to be listing your work history, but your work history needs to be formatted in a specific way. You're going to have to put your job title that you held. You're going to have to put the organization that you work for, the address of the organization, the time frame that you worked there from month and year of the start date to month and year of the end date. This is required. There is no other alternative way of listing your work history or your time period. So do not just list year to year. They require you to put month and year minimum. Next, you're going to have to put the amount of hours that you were scheduled to work while you held the position. This could be if you're a full-time employee, 40 hours a week. If you're a part-time employee, however many hours a week you're regularly scheduled for on average. Now, there are two other sections that are optional, but we highly recommend that you input them. The reason being is because they're going to be required for you to be able to proceed forward in the federal hiring process. So might as well streamline the process by putting the information in there straight from the beginning. Your supervisor's name and contact information, and your salary. The reason being that this is a part of the hiring process is because they utilize this information for your background checks. So a lot of people ask us, well, why do I have to put my hours? Usually the job dictates how many years of experience you have to have for you to qualify for a job. The federal government measures years of experience in the terms of 1 year full-time experience, right? Full-time experience is 40 hours a week. So 40 hours a week times 52 is 2,080 hours. 1 year of full-time experience in that job posting is you meeting all of those special criterias and those are pretty much those qualifications and everything else like that, and meeting all the requirements for 1 year's worth on the next lower level. And they will measure that is if you completed those tasks for equivalent to 2,080 hours. So they'll get your month and year of your start date to the month and year of your end date, calculate how many weeks that was, and then multiply it by the amount of hours you worked a week. And then they'll compare it to how many years of experience you actually have doing that. So that is why it's important that you put the information in there. Next thing is that they do not measure anything past 40 hours a week. So if you worked 60 hours in 1 week, doesn't mean that you have a week and a half worth of experience to the federal government. They will cap it off as for 1 week is 40 hours and that's it. So you can work 50, 60, 100 hours. We usually tell people round it up and just put a plus sign at the end of it because it's not going to count for any more than 40 hours to the federal government. Lastly, but not least, make sure you list your volunteer experience, any kind of outside of regular traditional work that is relevant to the position. So if you volunteered, if you had a work study job, if you were a part of a special program that paid you, list that kind of experience on here. So this is what your shell should currently be looking like. This is an example once you complete step 1. This individual looks like it's applying for an Army Reserve Administrator position and has a lot of HR experience in the background with the U.S. Army Reserve. Notice how this individual has their month and year and the amount of hours they work per week on there. Next, we're going to have to identify those KSAs. If you remember from the first example, those capitalized phrases in the beginning of the paragraph, we're going to have to identify, and we're also going to have to identify the specialized experience you have to talk about and address under each one of those KSAs. So if we go to the USA Jobs job opportunity announcement, which is the job you selected before you started this process, you'll go down to the qualification section and read the paragraph that starts with specialized experience. Once you see that, you'll see where it breaks down what kind of experience you need to have in order to qualify for the position. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight that experience, and then we're going to break it up. We're going to break it up into bullet points so that we can address each one of those things to say we have experience doing this, and we're going to make sure that we have 1 year of experience doing each one of these bullet points in order to qualify. Now we're going to categorize this and we're going to identify our KSAs. So if you go to the USA Jobs job opportunity announcement, within the qualification section again, you go to the section where it says how you will be evaluated. This section usually categorizes all the different subjects that the person who's going to be evaluating your resume will be looking for. These will be your KSAs. So now once you have your specialized experience bulleted out, and we have our KSAs, we're going to categorize all of our specialized experience under these KSAs. So as you can see, we reviewed all of the specialized experience and we have the different topics that they're going to evaluate us on, and we are moving the specialized experience and categorizing it under each one of these specific KSAs. Next is for every single job, you're going to have to complete a questionnaire. On the questionnaire, it specifically states that your questionnaire the answers you have on your questionnaire must correspond and correlate to the information that you put on your resume. In order to ensure that your resume matches the questionnaire, we ask that you look at the questionnaire ahead of time and pull out the information that you're going to need to address on your resume. So in order to do this, you're going to go to the how to apply section within the job opportunity announcement, and you're going to select the link that allows you to view the pre-employment screening questionnaire. Right there, you're going to see a nice little hyperlink. Now I'm going to address this again. The responses you put on the questionnaire must correspond and match the information on your resume. If it does not match, your application will not go forward. So right there, you will see that it will be asking for what level of experience you have completing a specific task. And you're going to select one of the 5 options that are there. Whatever level of experience you have on there, you're going to have to identify it on your resume and elaborate how you actually have that level of experience. So once you're in the questionnaire, there are 3 sections: the eligibility section, the conditions of employment section, and the assessment section. You're going to proceed to the assessment section. Within the assessment section, you're going to highlight each task and you're going to answer the question for each and every single task. Once you highlight that specific task and what level of experience you have for that specific task, you're going to have to put it on your checklist and annotate what level of experience you need to communicate to the employer in completing that specific task. So now we have our KSA checklist. We are completing the questionnaire, and we're moving that question and putting it onto our checklist, and we're identifying what level of experience we have completing that specific task. So if there's a question that already matches the specialized experience you already pulled from the job and the opportunity announcement, you don't need to list it again. If it's similar, you don't need to list it again. If it already addresses the things that you're already planning to address, you don't need to list it again. But make sure that you address every single one of those points on the questionnaire on your resume. This is an example of what your KSA checklist should look like when completed. So you have your KSAs highlighted. We usually recommend that you put these in all caps afterwards so that they can stand out when the HR person is reading it. And now we have every single thing that we pulled out of the job posting and the questionnaire that we need to address under each one of these KSAs. So now that we have our checklist and what information we need to put on there, we need to transpose it over to our resume shell. So at this point, you should have 2 documents, a KSA checklist and a resume shell. So what we're going to end up doing is that for each and every single job, we're going to answer every single bullet point for each one of those KSAs, and we're going to categorize it under those KSAs for each and every single job on your work history. I know it sounds like a lot, but here's a couple of points on how to be able to do it. You'll respond to each point with a 2-part answer. Each answer is going to have your experience of what you did and how you accomplished or what you accomplished by doing that specific task. All right, you're going to list the amount of experience and the level of experience. It's okay to be repetitious. You're going to provide what accomplishments you had while completing that task, who was impacted, what was the cost saving, did you exceed any deadlines, did you receive awards or recognitions, what changes or improvements happened by you doing this task. In the end, if you answer this way, what it'll do is that will help answer how well you did the task and why should that agency hire you. So It's a lot of information to pull for answering these questions. So some of the things we recommend clients to do is pull from multiple sources, former job descriptions, reviews and feedbacks, transcripts, military feedback, course feedbacks, award recognitions, customer acknowledgements, survey results, whatever you could think of that you could pull actionable information from, use that to help you structure your answer. Think a little bit outside the box. Look at volunteer experiences, projects, professional academic challenges or successes, special assignments, travel experiences with your organization. Make sure it's relevant to the position you're applying for and that is within the realm of that job, that particular job that you're answering that for at that time. So if you worked, say most recently as a veteran employment coordinator and your job before that was, let's say, mental health tech. That's just an example. If you work as a veteran employment coordinator, you're going to answer each one of those bullet points on as if you were during your time and your experience based off of your veteran employment coordinator experience. Then you're going to move on and go to your next job and you're going to repeat this entire process again. Here's an example of a couple points of how it was before and how it should look like. So this individual was an instructor and he put down responsible for planning, executing, coordinating special operations, mountain and desert training, served as primary instructor for all new soldiers in training. After restructuring this individual was applying for an instructor position and it was under his instruction KSA and he was trying to address his level of experience. So we put this on, we changed it up and this is what we came up with. Developed and executed numerous sensitive and realistic training courses for nearly 1,500 personnel annually, rated as #1 instructor over 20 peers on the last 3 annual performance reports. This addresses his level of experience and it also addresses his capabilities to be able to instruct a large number of people. So here's an example of your final product. You're going to repeat step 4 for every single job that you have listed on your resume shell. Every point has a response, and then you're going to, once you have a response for every single point under each KSA, you're going to structure it under a paragraph format. You're going to pretty much put your most important point up top and your least important point on the bottom. So, and you're going to then put it into a paragraph format and try to make it flow. Here's an example of one. This individual put down administrative and human resources support. And then he started going on by answering each one of those specific specialized experience points that came up and also based off of what was being asked on the questionnaire, and he started addressing each and every single one. Now, this individual obviously was working 8 hours a week and not making very much money because he was a reservist, but he attempted to the best of his knowledge to list his level of expertise in doing the task. Now we're going to talk about your final steps. You're going to have to list your education. So under the education section, you'll only list the education that's accredited by the Department of Education. This is not the section where you list training certificates that you did. For our military personnel, this is actually very common because we do a lot of training while in the military. But not all of that training is accredited by the Department of Education, right? And so usually what we tell people to do is go check and see if if the education you want to input on this section is accredited. And right there is the website, www.ed.gov/accreditation. Do not list certifications or job training in this section. For any higher education above high school, you must upload a copy of your transcripts on your profile and submit it on your application when you're applying for the position. Next is job-related training. Keyword, job-related training, okay? The section that you list any job-related certifications or former job-related training you received while in the past. Do not list training or certifications that do not relate to the position you're applying for. Example, food handler safety course does not relate to human resources. Okay, so if you're applying for a human resources job, that certification has nothing to do with work in human resources, so you don't have to list it. The format that you will list it under is the issuing authority of the certification. For example, right here, it says CompTIA. What the certification was. In this example, it says the A+ IT certification, and when it was completed on April Fool's Day on 2020. So this will be the format that we tell people to input. It is not required to input it in this format. If you have additional information, you're more than welcome to put any additional information. But at a minimum, put these three things. As a reminder, if you have a certification that's required for you to work the job, such as an IT job requires you to have a server certification or a specific type of certification, you have to have that certification uploaded on your application. Or if you're going to list it on here and you believe it is relevant to the job and that it would actually help you out, we highly recommend that you upload that certification with the application when you submit it. The next section is going to be the language section. Now, this section is if you speak any other languages other than English. If you do not, you can leave this section blank or not even input it at all on your federal resume. If you do speak another language, you have to indicate the level of proficiency for how well you can speak, write, and read that language. Okay? So you will identify the language you speak. You will identify the level you're able to speak that language. You will identify the level you're able to write that language and the level you're able to read that language. Next will be any additional information. This is the section you indicate any additional pertinent information such as eligibility for any special hiring authorities or hiring paths, such as recent graduate, if you're eligible for Veteran Recruitment Act, VOA, Veteran Employment Opportunity Act, so on and so forth. If you were a former federal employee, you're going to list all those things. If you have a disability status, what your disability rating is, your discharge status, any applicable security clearances if you already have it, anything else that's applicable to the position but not already listed on the resume. Last but not least, you're going to have to put your references. Minimum of 3 references. We recommend that you put a minimum of 2 professional references, and you can't put 1 personal references, but the more professional references you have, the better. You must provide their full contact information. So their name, their phone number, their email, their employer, and their title they hold. Lastly but not least on this section, references and the supervisor's information that you put on top are the 2 biggest reasons that there is a holdup in getting employed with the federal government. So if you are referred, you interviewed, and you start the process, they usually have to go through the background check. If they don't hear responses from these individuals you listed down, usually this holds up your start date or it holds up your employment, or can even lead to you not gaining employment. You cannot start without without having these individuals respond and you completing your background stage. So what we ask is that you ensure that all the individuals listed on your resume are aware and prepared to respond to any inquiries from the employer, meaning supervisors that you have listed and the references. Now we have a lot of people ask, well, the company's not there anymore, that supervisor doesn't work there anymore. Just call HR, make sure that HR number is there, and you let them know that you're applying for another position, that you're gonna list their information on there for them to be able to contact you. And you will list your actual supervisor during that time, and just when they call, they're gonna get a hold of HR. This is what it will look like once you're done with that. So last pieces of advice here before we end this presentation. We have a lot of people who come to us and say, I want to apply for this job and this job closes in like a day or two. Give yourself some time. Many times when people see those postings, they try to rush into completing a federal resume, and very rarely do they get the job. By giving yourself time, you're able to break this process down into chunks and come out with a better quality product. You're able to start with the resume shell. Give yourself a break. Make sure that information is full and complete. Then you're able to go into the KSA checklist, and then you're able to go into your first job, complete everything for the first job. Give yourself a break. Go in, complete the second job, so on and so forth, until you have a good, solid product. Be honest, but don't sell yourself short. Don't lie, because this process is designed to verify everything you claim on your resume. But at the same time, don't sell yourself short. If you were a part of a project or a part of something important, let that employee know that you were a crucial part of that process. Do not use words like we, us, or team. There are a lot of humble people, and that's a great attribute. This is not the time to be humble. Instead, elaborate on your role and talk about yourself and your successes. This is the opportunity to sell yourself, and you want them to know all the great things about you. Keynote, all the great things about you as it pertains to the job you're applying for. Next, get a second pair of eyes. You know you did a great job when this is all starting to look like a blur and you memorize every single part of your resume. That being said, you start becoming a little bit biased. So it's always good to have other people or a few people go over it with you, and your local veteran employment coordinator is always a good option for that. If you're going to go get feedback from other people, you have to be willing to accept that feedback. The reason that it's a good idea to have other people look over it is because if they have an opinion or something like that, how is it that you can say that the employer you're going to be sending it to, or the HR representative who's going to be reading your resume, won't have that same opinion? So what you want to do is be able to create a foolproof resume, right? Where you leave no room for questioning. And that's why we like going through this process, because if you go through this process successfully, more than likely or very likely, you'll be able to move on to the next steps. I know this was very overwhelming, but if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to always reach out to us via our website, www.workforwarriorsnv.org. If you need assistance writing a federal resume or going over your federal resume, please register with us in order that you could be assigned to a veteran employment coordinator and then schedule an appointment with that veteran employment coordinator. We'd be more than happy to help you out. Thank you, and you guys have a great day.